finally, this meeting of the County Commissioners, November the 5th at 6 p.m. And I'll recognize for invocation Commissioner Milton Campbell, and Pledge of Allegiance will be Ryan Mayberry. Let's stand.
Good, please stand. Father, we thank you for this day, Lord. You thank you for the ability to be able to gather here. Lord, we ask, give us wisdom in any decisions we make for our county. It's in the best interest of our citizens. Lord, we ask for a continued protective hedge around our emergency personnel, Sheriff's Department, Rescue Squad. Lord, just be with them and their families and give them comfort. Lord, we ask for your wisdom in the upcoming days as we enter the election, and let us accept the results, and let us as a country move on and move forward and not look back. And Lord, we ask all this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I have a recognition, and I'll read a few things before doing that. This person has won the North Carolina Emergency Management Association Award, and it's the Colonel Philip Nichols Waters Award, and it's been presented to Russell Green for his outstanding achievement in his local emergency management program, and has contributed to the overall good of our county and for the state. It's a pretty illustrious award. Not many people get this. The criteria: you must be currently holding the director position with a minimum of 2 years experience, minimum of an executive emergency manager certification, and a written endorsement from manager or chairperson. And this award was presented to him, and many people across the state have benefited at one time or another from Russell's leadership, his presence, experience, and mentoring of fellow emergency managers, or his willingness to share resources that went way above and beyond expectations. He has led the state association as president, chaired committees, been a disaster preparedness region chair, championed the implementation of the NCEMA strategic plan, was the first to implement county-level foreign animal disease exercises, was a leader in school emergency planning, worked on state task forces, shared rides across the state, been a constant presence at meetings and conferences for years, and he's been quiet or not so quiet. He's a good encourager for his fellow workers and colleagues, and he has really helped Alexander County tremendously. So Russell, if you come forward, got a plaque here that says Colonel Philip Nichols Waters Award presented to Russell Green, Alexander County Emergency Services, for outstanding achievement in emergency management from North Carolina Emergency Management Association, October of 2018. Thanks, sir. Appreciate everything you do.
No, thank you. It was somewhat humbling to receive this award last month at the conference. It's even more humbling today to read the letters of support. I actually got a copy of the packet, your letter, chairman, county managers, several department heads, and folks from across the state, so that's very humbling. But I'll tell you, I accepted this award, and it's not just Russell. From our commissioners, our county manager, our department heads, all of our employees, and all of our emergency service workers in the county. It's one team, and without the team, this wouldn't have been possible. So this is for everybody, not just for Russell. Thank y'all very much.
Get up here and get a picture. You'll have to get in front of the podium.
Come on.
I just want to say, good job, Russell. Thank you. You deserve it. You've done a great job, and if you don't know, he's very passionate about what he does. So we do appreciate it, and That's to the benefit of the citizens of Alexander County.
Okay. And, our emergency services is very important. When we make that call, we want to get, some response. And I think we've got a number one group in Alexander County that works together, and Russell heading things up to try to be looking ahead to take care of Alexander County, and I appreciate him and all the ones that work with him. And thank you, Russell. Next item is Commissioner's report. Anyone have something they want to speak about?
Well, I would just say tomorrow, we need to exercise our freedom to vote, and I know everybody knows that tomorrow's election day, so get out there and vote if you haven't already. I like to wait till the last day, so I'm never going to vote early. But I just want to mention also, two of our commissioners are going off the board. They decided not to run for re-election. And I just wanted to say it's been a pleasure serving with Commissioner Campbell and Commissioner Lael. And it's been a short 4 years. I can't believe it's already up. And maybe it seems long to you guys, but
Depends on the day.
it has been a pleasure working with you, and you guys have been a great, colleagues, and I think we've worked really, really good together. And I hope the citizens of Alexander County appreciate what you guys have done.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been, has been good. I think we've accomplished a lot of things, and I'm sure how the election comes out, we'll be able to accomplish more things, with our new members, however it goes. And I do say too, go out and vote if you haven't already. Kind of like Ryan, I'm a traditional guy, so I plan to go vote first thing in the morning. So looks like it'll be a little bit of rain, but that's not bad. We'll get out there and get it finished up. It's been a good turnout, from early voting, so I appreciate everyone, voting. That's a freedom that we have that, a lot of people gave their life for, so, we need to make sure we exercise that. All right.
And Mr. Chairman, can I add one more thing? I would like to say, if you see a veteran tomorrow, shake their hand and tell them thank you, because if it weren't for them, we might not have this right to vote.
That's right.
We may not have the freedom that we have in the United States of America.
That's right. Anyone else have a comment?
Are we supposed to give a speech or something?
Well, if you want to, something like 30 seconds or something.
I'm good.
Hey, okay.
No, Mr. Chairman, first, I would apologize for being late. Got tied up at work. And I have mixed emotions about not filing for re-election. I didn't really have mixed emotions when it was time to file. But I am gonna miss this to some degree. I think since I'm coming off, I can say this. There's a lot more to being a county commissioner, or at least attempting to be an effective county commissioner, than a lot of people think. The folks that are running, whomever's elected, please be supportive of them. A lot of people think we come and we sit here once a month and we have a meeting, and sure, yes, we do, but there are daily emails and daily phone calls and committee meetings and board, subcommittees and sub-boards, and, there's a lot more to it. Like I say, there's homework if you want to do it right. And the new folks, or whomever's here, I would just say, please be supportive, because most of the things that county commissioners hear are not positive from the public. I've developed thick skin and grown up quite a bit in the last 4 years. If I hadn't, I would probably be locked in a rubber room somewhere. But I have enjoyed it, and I have a lot going on with my family, have a lot going on with work. 6 children take quite a bit of time every day, and I just prioritized, and I made a selfish decision to some degree to bow out, at least this time. But I do appreciate, and I'm sure Milton does as well, appreciate the support we've gotten from, there's a very loyal batch of people in Alexander County that keep up with what the commission is doing and are involved in the local, are involved in Alexander County government. And most of them are very, most of you guys, and you're who I'm talking about, have been very supportive, and those of you that work for the county have done a phenomenal job from what I've, for the time I've been around. So, that's it.
Okay, Mr. Campbell?
Yeah, I'd like to comment. I think this is an interesting learning experience for anybody. I think the hard thing is some of the committee things. If you work full-time, it is very difficult to meet those commitments, and I struggled with that. And for those when I wasn't there, I'll apologize, but I have a full-time job that keeps me on the road a lot, and that's one of the reasons I actually felt like, I didn't have the time to commit in the future. I think I've met a lot of really great people that work for our county. I've enjoyed getting to know Mr. French. I really didn't know Mr. French prior to this very well. We have a lot of fantastic people that work for the county. I guess I'm a little bit of a nerd. I like the budget process probably the best. That's was probably where I found my most of my enjoyment. But again, I certainly wish well to those that follow us, and always hope I'll be a supportive voice. It's awful easy to be a discourager rather than an encourager, and I certainly hope that was a role I would always be an encourager, because you make decisions up here. Some things I think back on, like the broadband, we're just, we're getting that cranked up, and that really started with a citizen up in the Little River community, James Fortner, that just kept calling, and quite frankly, he was just, the squeaky wheel that we need to grease, and then we got to look at it, it really had some legs. So, that's where a citizen became active, and something good's going to come out of it. The water and sewer, I think, is very positive. The spec buildings have been good to us. It's allowed us to recruit industry. Tried to do the right thing. Nobody bats 1,000. So, anybody that gets up here, they're not always going to, you're not always going to come up with the right decision. You make the right decision at the time, but sometimes there are unintended consequences you find out later. But that's what I certainly think I tried to do, is make the best judgment call that you could at the time. And certainly the folks that will follow us, wish them and the county all the best and all the prosperity that we can possibly have as a county. Because I grew up here, I'm from here, I'll probably always reside here at least part-time in my life. So certainly have strong sentiment to this area. And it's a great county, wonderful people. And yeah, you do hear a little chatter, Josh, but as I told people before I ran, one of my first jobs in Alexander County was as an umpire in Little League baseball games. So I probably got indoctrinated to the opinions of others very early. But again, thank you all, those of you I've worked with. Thank you for your kindness and your graciousness, and I wish you all well.
Well, I guess I was the only one, I guess you'd say, thick-skinned enough to re-up. It's been an honor for me to serve for 4 years, so hopefully I'll be back here again. But it's up to the citizens and to the voters, and, you know, I'm sure things will go with whoever, you know, gets these seats, so, but, like I said, just make sure you go out and vote if you hadn't already, and, you know, we'll be able to take care of county government, however it falls, and, move forward. Okay, moving on, I'd entertain a motion for adoption of agenda. I think everyone's had the opportunity to look over it. Do I have a motion to
So
accept?
moved.
Okay, have a motion?
Second?
Motion and a second. Any discussion concerning the agenda? If not, all in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, next item will be, public comment. No one signed up. Okay, moving on to item number 2, public hearing for rezoning case 18-5, Parkhurst. I recognize, John Pilkington, Director of Planning and Development.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening to the board. Tonight we have a rezoning request by Janet Parkhurst and Donna Parkhurst White for property they own located, one parcel is located along NC Highway 127. It is vacant. There's actually a billboard on the property, and the other parcel is adjoining it, but is on the backside and abuts Telephone Exchange Road. They're requesting rezoning of these two parcels from the current RA20 zoning district to HC Highway Commercial. Back in May of 2017, the Cecil Sigmund property, which is just north of the property that fronts on 127, even though it's not shown as changed on the map here, was rezoned highway commercial, and the Parkhurst actually had called and asked if they could kind of piggyback onto that one, but it was a little too late in the process to get notifications sent out to do it. But they had intended to rezone this property. They don't have any current plans for the property. They just want to rezone it from residential to highway commercial to make it more suitable for potential commercial development. And rezoning this parcel would tie in quite a few parcels there together, give about 10 acres approximately of property that's located on Highway 127 that has a commercial zoning district. The Planning Commission met on October 4th and was unanimous in their recommendation for approval of this proposed rezoning. They noted that the rezoning was consistent with the 2008 Alexander County Comprehensive Plan, which identified the area as designated for commercial use, and that it would be consistent with the adopted goals and policies in the plan. And as noted just a second ago, that it would create a large area of commercial property for potential future development. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them. I don't know if anyone's here from the either Miss Parkhurst or Miss White. I think Miss Parkhurst had contacted me and said she was going to be out of town and didn't think she'd be back in time, so I'm not sure. if
Okay.
anybody-
Yeah, I don't see them, and I know them.
Okay.
Well, he'd open a public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we open a public hearing pertaining to rezoning case 18-5.
Okay. Have a
Second.
motion and a second. Okay, this time, any discussion from the commissioners? Anyone in the audience who wishes to speak concerning this?
John, one question, the parcel just to the north of the piece where, was it not rezoned
It
commercial?
was, and it's just not been updated on our
Okay.
GIS.
So the parcel to the north
Yes,
is also
Correct.
highway commercial, so it should be in red, but the map hadn't been
right, the
updated.
map just hasn't been updated.
That's what
Yeah.
because I remember
So
that one.
you're gonna have a
That
actual
was-
large area there.
That was the Fox property, if I remember.
Sigmund,
Sigmund,
it was
yeah.
Sigmund that I have noted on.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, one of the, okay, yeah.
Did we second that? Or we,
Yeah,
okay,
we
second.
We didn't, I don't know if we voted.
Oh, did we?
We need a vote to open, I guess.
Open public hearing.
We don't, well, I didn't,
We
I
need
made a
to-
motion.
Okay, we open, so, okay, and a
This guy
second.
seconded.
Okay, we should be covered, so.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, anyone has any comments? All right, I make a motion, we close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. All in favor of closing, raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, so we need to adopt a vote to approve. Okay, at this time, I would make a motion to approve public hearing rezoning case 18-5 Parkhurst, per the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission, who met on October the 4th, 2018, and they unanimously recommended approval. The rezoning request is consistent with future land use in the 2008 Comprehensive Plan. The request will not negatively impact the surrounding with regards to commercial development. The request would create a large area for potential commercial development along NC Highway 127. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I'm gonna vote yes on this, but, it would be a good idea if someone, either real estate agent, owner, someone were to show up at the rezoning hearings in case we have questions that we need to ask. I
And
mean,
she
this
did
one's-
contact me and just told me that just,
Yeah.
she had to be out of town. And
This one's pretty straightforward, but
Right.
sometimes there's, other things that, can complicate a situation, so.
Okay, anybody else? All right, no other questions, I'd entertain a vote of approval, raise your right hand. Okay, motion carries unanimously, it's approved, thank you, John.
Thank you.
Okay, and item number 3, Alexander County Annual Christmas Parade Update, I recognize, Mr. Dwayne Coley,
Thank you.
thank you.
I'm excited to be here tonight because it's an exciting time for me personally because I love a parade. And we've been working hard at getting everything together for this year's edition of the parade. The Alexander County Christmas Parade is scheduled for the first Saturday in December, which is Saturday, December the 1st, 2018 at 3 p.m. This year's parade is the 72nd annual opening of the holiday season in Alexander County. There are a number of different holiday observances throughout the month of December, but the annual parade has long been the official kickoff of the holiday season. This year will prove to be no exception. The 2018 version of the Christmas parade is being sponsored by the Alexander County government for the folks of the county. The late registration deadline does not begin until November the 19th, which is a huge change from previous years. We wanted more groups to participate without having to pay additional fees. We want everyone to take advantage of this wonderful opportunity to get in the parade and be a part of the lineup. We have discovered that it doesn't matter when you start the process, however. As we approach the late fee beginning, people scramble to take advantage of the cheaper rates and get their name on the roster. Our goal for this year's parade was not to increase the cost of entries, but to encourage participants to respond earlier and take advantage of discounts that could be offered. I'm not sure we achieved that goal, but we tried. The parade lines up at Alexander Central High School, the Alexander County Administrative Offices, the Alexander County Social Services, the Alexander County Senior Center, and the Alexander County Board of Education. At these locations, we can easily accommodate the 200 entries that we tried to make as a maximum each year in the parade. The parade proceeds down Loudon Road to Main Street and turns right onto Main Avenue Drive, where the parade will be videoed for future broadcast on the government channel, and there will be a live broadcast on ACB WTLK radio. The parade will turn right onto Main Avenue Drive and proceed to the intersection of Highway 16, where it makes a quick zigzag onto Highway 16 before turning right onto First Avenue. Then the parade turns left onto 7th Avenue to return to the starting location. Our entries have been reasonably steady throughout the entire process. However, we are still eager to have responses from some of those businesses, civic organizations, churches, political groups, etc., that usually participate. As of today, we have about 75 entries who have paid their fees and are ready to roll. We're still seeking another 4 or so commercial float entries to bring our total to 15 commercial floats, which is 2 more than last year. We have heard from several of our county EMS, fire and rescue vehicles. However, we're still missing a few of those folks. We have several churches, some cheerleaders, some ball teams, but there's plenty of room for more entries. The community visibility and the publicity of radio, and then again, the rebroadcast of the parade on the government channel makes the 72nd annual Alexander County Christmas Parade a bargain in anyone's book. Entry forms can be downloaded at the county's website with a /parade after it, or send your entry questions to alexanderchristmasparade@gmail.com. Or I'll be happy to forward the forms to you, and you can also reach me by phone at 828-320-7614. We want this year's parade to be a celebration of the community and all of the things that are good about Alexander County. Oh, bands. What's a parade without a band? The Alexander Central High School Band is always our band of honor and will be stepping off as they lead the parade through the streets of our parade route. We are so very happy to welcome the following bands in this year's lineup: Ashe County High School Marching Huskies, the West Caldwell Marching Warriors, the High Brighton Marching Panthers, and the Bandy's High School Trojan Band. Yes, we have a total of 5 bands scheduled to march in this year's parade. I've been affiliated with the parade off and on for more years than some of you are old, at least for 30 years. And this is the first time I can remember us ever having this many bands. So we're all excited about that. We're also excited that the Alexander Central FFA will be collecting canned goods for our area pantries. Parade goers are encouraged to bring canned goods, food staples, and non-perishable items to contribute to help meet the needs of our community. Cash or checks will also be accepted to help with feeding the hungry of the county as well. The young adults of the club are providing a service to our community to assist these agencies in meeting the needs of the people of Alexander County. Santa and Mrs. Claus have committed to sleigh in for the event, so I think we're getting things ready to roll. All that we need now are additional participants, happy viewers, and a beautiful, I had snowy, and I decided to go back to sunshiny, but I love snow afternoon. Our emergency departments have been alerted and are on standby when we get closer to the December 1st date. The Sheriff's Department, the Town of Taylorsville Police Department, and even the North Carolina Highway Patrol keep things under control and moving in the right direction. The pre-parade activities are about complete. Permits have been received, floats have been contracted, signage is underway, so we're getting ready for to have our preparations in order. We simply need the public to respond and get the entries ready for the big day. Oh, and we need to name our Grand Marshal. The Grand Marshal for the 72nd annual Alexander County Christmas Parade has tirelessly devoted time, energy, and talent to country and county with honor and distinction. I am pleased to congratulate this year's Grand Marshal, Ben Hines. No, I'm not. Ben Hines is going to be our Grand Marshal. Let me tell you a little bit. Let me share a little bit about Ben, in case you didn't know already. The Honorable Ben Hines has served Alexander County as a Register of Deeds since 1986. That's 32 years of service to the citizens of this great county. Prior to this service, he retired from the Air Force with the rank of Chief Master Sergeant following 31 years of service to his country. That's 2 distinguished service careers totaling more than 63 years of service from one man. And Ben, you keep telling us you can hardly wait to turn 65 so you can start drawing Social Security. I can't do the math. Lovingly, Ben has been referred to as Mr. Air Force by his fellow retirees at reunions and other military gatherings. Ben's participated in the Christmas parade, the Vashti parade, for more than 30 years each. Ben is like me. He loves a parade. He's been the recipient of the Order of the Longleaf Pine, which is among the most prestigious awards conferred by the Governor of North Carolina for his exemplary service to state and community. In Ben's spare time, he has served for over 20 years as a deacon and dedicated member of First Baptist Church in Taylorsville. He served on numerous committees and has chaired many of these committees throughout the church. Ben spearheaded the American Legion and veteran organizations' efforts to erect 3 flagpoles at the County Administration Building on Lyledown Road. He researched, ordered, and even helped with funding to purchase and install the flagpoles for the United States flag, the North Carolina flag, and the Alexander County flag. Ben organized and worked with the county's Veterans Affairs Office to honor the county's vets and an annual Veterans Day program. Ben helped organize and lead many of the festivities of the county's sesquicentennial observance, which was our 150th anniversary. I knew all of you knew that, but I thought I'd help you. A part of the celebration was the refurbishing and creation of the bell tower on the courthouse lawn. The county bell was originally placed in the Alexander County Courthouse when it was built in 1902. It sat in storage for several years, but eventually took its place of prominence in the county's bell tower. Lawyer and town leader Jerry Campbell and Ben served as co-chairs for this project until its completion. And it wasn't completed. I was on the sesquicentennial committee. We didn't get it done until a couple years later, but this guy said, I am going to do it. We're going to make this happen, and he did. Ben assisted in the county fundraiser called the Bovine Bingo, a fundraiser for the American Cancer Society, which entailed placing a cow on the courthouse lawn, which had been divided into numbered squares, and everyone waited for the cow to make a deposit in the winner's square. Town leader Beth Arndt was a co-organizer with him, and this was a very successful fundraiser. As a longtime member and supporter of the Ellendale Ruritan Club, he has held almost every office and position in the club. Since January of 1984, Gentle Ben has served on many Rotarian clubs, committees, and served as past president twice and held other offices as well. Ben and his wife, Gwen Curley Hines, who died after a courageous battle with cancer, had 5 children: Sherry, Benji, Alicia, Scott, and Amy. He is now married to Margie Bumgarner Mays Hines, and they have been very happy and sites around the community for a number of years. Ben's military career, added to the careers of service of his sons, daughters, and sons-in-law, totals 130 years of collective military service from this one remarkable family. Ben Hines, it's a privilege to name you the 2018 Grand Marshal of the 72nd Annual Alexander County Christmas Parade. It has.
Had two great careers. And it's just, I regret that I can't keep on going. But Father Time is taking care of it. So I had to start helping Margie deliver Lay's meats to different places. And see, whenever I was wondering about Margie, I couldn't help but think of Fiddler on the Roof. Tevye, the actor, he keeps, his oldest daughter's about to marry Laser Wolf, the town butcher. On one hand, he'd say, well, she'll never go hungry. On the other hand, but she didn't answer the papa. So it goes back and forth, and finally, he said, well, she'll never go hungry. So when Margie came along, I thought, if I'm married up with Margie, whatever, I'm not gonna go hungry. Fiddler on the Roof.
That's right.
And that is tradition.
Tradition.
As you can see, the parade plans and activities have been in high gear for several months. We're working hard to secure the balance of entries. The assistance of the public is greatly appreciated. If you are affiliated with a club, a church, a business, please encourage those responsible to move quickly to secure your place in this year's annual Christmas parade. Thank you so much for the opportunity to serve, and thanks for listening.
Thank you, Dwayne.
Thank you, Dwayne.
Appreciate
I'm
it.
going to excuse myself. I'm committed on Monday nights to be a volunteer at the Mobile Cafe, and I'm going to go prepare a meal for tomorrow, if that's okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate your work on the parade. Congratulations, Mr. Hine, and we appreciate your service too. Next item is number 4, and proclamation declaring November 10 through 18, 2018 as National Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week in Alexander County. And I recognize Cindy Hathcock, Executive Director of My Safe Haven.
Hi, how are
Thank
you? Thank you for having us here. November is National Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Month, and the week of November 10th through the 18th is recognized for a lot of organizations to do something in the community in regards to this. Working in Alexander County, the brief time that I've been here so far, we've noticed that there's a lot of need. And I can go back to that early in January of this year, a committee of community agencies formed in regards to the issues that they've seen in this community in regards to homelessness. And I would like to take a moment to recognize those that are here, if that is okay.
That's fine. Go
We
ahead.
have, if you would please stand. We have Bria Marlowe with the Alexander County Health Department. We have Gina Lingle and Miles McLean with Alexander County DSS. We have Jamie Jones and Kathy Jones, Alexander County School System social workers. We have Debbie Hollingsworth with the Christian Crisis Center of Alexander County. Jack St. Clair, he is not here tonight. He is with the Guardian Ad Litem program and Mobile Cafe. Leanne Perkins, she is Executive Director of United Way. We have Pastor Paul Sink, and we have Dawn Reynolds, who is the Domestic Violence Court Advocate. And so these amazing human beings have taken the time and volunteered their efforts on seeing the needs in this community and bringing up my organization on board to come together to try to fix this problem. And we have, since then, they have come under My Safe Haven as the housing committee in regards to the homeless shelter that we're opening, that will be opened by the summer, begin early summer of next year. That shelter will encompass multiple programs for families with children who are homeless, because that, and Jamie will speak to that momentarily, of the biggest issue that we're seeing in this community. In regards to Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week, y'all can sit down. Thank you, guys. The facts are, no one should have to worry about whether they will have food on their plate or a roof over their head. But the reality is that hunger and homelessness are widespread problems that affect far too many people in our community. Many Americans are living on the edge, forced to choose between their basic necessities like purchasing food, paying their rent, or going to the doctor. 43.1 million Americans live below the poverty level. 549,000 Americans are homeless on a typical night. 42 million Americans are at risk of suffering from hunger, and 1 in 5 children in the U.S. live in poverty. We are part of a regional committee, My Safe Haven is, called the Unified Regional Committee. And I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with what the Unified is. It's a community group composed of leaders of government, nonprofits, businesses, and citizens. And the goals of the Unified are to work to increase affordable housing options in Alexander, Burke, Caldwell, Catawba, and McDowell counties, and create safe and immediate solutions for those experiencing homelessness, and to collect data to assist with funding those solutions. And our organization will be one of those organizations, the only one in Alexander County receiving those funds to be able to provide funding for housing, being able to work with veterans, families to prevent them from coming into a homeless shelter. So we'll be able to do preventative work as well. Those experiencing homelessness are not just the people you may see on the corners with obvious challenges, but they are also families, veterans, and children dealing with a variety of issues, living sometimes in plain sight. Our goal is to bring awareness to homelessness and ask for our community to help be involved in our planning and our solutions to end the homelessness problem here. We are an organization, we started with working with victims of crime. We still currently do that. That's what My Safe Haven is. During the process of the victims that we've worked with, we wondered what made them vulnerable. In the very beginning of working with victims, at one time or another, they were homeless, and that, of course, made them vulnerable. And so they were victims of many, many crimes, including human trafficking, rapes, robberies, you name it. And so we work with multiple victims in that on a federal and a state level. We are on the National Human Trafficking Coalition. We are on the FBI's Task Force for Human Trafficking as well with our direct victim care. And so a lot of my clients that I see, they're pretty much majority of them are minors, and they're all homeless, jumping from bed to bed. Housing secure, they're going from families to families or friends, couches, what have you. And so that is where I'm going to lead into Jamie speaking, because there's many children in Alexander County that are homeless currently right now. And she has something she has prepared. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Good evening. As Ms. Hathcock stated, my name is Jamie Jones, and I am a school social worker here in Alexander County. Over the years that I have worked here, I have seen an enormous need for emergency and transitional housing in this county. Many of the parents that I work with, they're living from paycheck to paycheck, and a simple illness, job loss, or a reduction in benefits can be the difference between maintaining or losing their housing. Frequently, these families do not have any extended family or supports that are capable of helping them out financially in their time of a crisis. Once homeless, these families have some difficult choices. If they go to a shelter, right now, it'll be in another county. It'll be away from what few supports they have, and usually it means splitting up parents because men are not accepted at the shelters. It means children have to leave their friends and change their schools. All of this can be quite traumatic for children and parents alike. Because of this, we see families usually opting to double up with another family rather than go to the homeless shelters. This typically results in the families moving from house to house, staying with whoever they can. Not only is this really unstable, but many of these situations in and of themselves are inappropriate for the children. Research shows that children who have experienced homelessness are far more likely to have lower academic attainment and are more likely to drop out of school before graduation. It was recently estimated by the state of Florida that every dropout can cost our nation from $354,000 to $476,000 in lost earnings, health care needs, involvement with crime, use of the welfare system, and loss of productivity. The schools have seen firsthand that these children are at higher risks of experiencing toxic stress, behavioral problems, mental illness, substance abuse, participating in criminal activity, and experiencing economic hardships of their own when they become adults. It is our hope that through this shelter, we can reduce the amount of harm that is caused to these children by not only providing temporary housing, food, and a sense of safety, but by giving their parents the tools and the guidance that they need to successfully live independently and reduce the likelihood that they will become chronically homeless. So how often do we see this here in the schools in Alexander County? Far more often than you would think. Now, we do not have a perfect system for identification at this time, but we are working to improve our methods. Last school year, we identified roughly 74 homeless children who were enrolled in Alexander County schools. So far this year, we have already identified 46 children, and we've only just made it through the first quarter of school. I ask that you think about the potential cost to this county if we cannot help these families. If each of these children followed the statistically probable path of dropping out of school and becoming involved in the criminal justice system, this could translate into a cost to society that would accrue at up to $35 million yearly. I ask that you support the efforts of My Safe Haven to establish an emergency shelter and transitional housing here in Alexander County in any way that you can, because these children and these families deserve a fighting chance. Thank you.
Thank you. I think there's a resolution. Would one of y'all like to read that proclamation?
Yes.
Yeah, we have it up here, if you want. Okay. Can you give us that here? Thank you.
This is the proclamation declaring November 10th through the 18th, 2018 as National Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week in Alexander County. Whereas for over 25 years, the National Coalition for the Homeless and National Student Campaign Against Hunger and Homelessness have sponsored National Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week, and whereas the purpose of the proclamation is to educate the public about the many reasons people are hungry and homeless, including the shortage of affordable housing in Alexander County for very low-income residents, and to encourage support for homeless assistance service providers, as well as community service opportunities for students and school service organizations. And whereas there are many organizations committed to sheltering and providing supportive services, as well as meals and food supplies to people experiencing homelessness, including My Safe Haven, the Christian Crisis Center of Alexander County, and the Mobile Cafe. And whereas the theme of National Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week 2018 is resolved to fight poverty. And whereas the Alexander County Board of Commissioners recognize that hunger and homelessness continue to be a serious problem for many individuals and families in Alexander County. And whereas the intent of the National Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week is consistent with the activities of My Safe Haven, the Christian Crisis Center of Alexander County, and the Mobile Cafe. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Alexander County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim the week of November 10th through the 18th, 2018 as National Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week. But it further resolved that the Alexander County Board of Commissioners encourages all citizens to recognize that many people do not have housing and need support from citizens and private, public, nonprofit services entities.
Thank you. So we need to, I would make a motion that we adopt this resolution in support. I have a second.
Second.
Any other discussion or question?
Well, I got just a couple questions. I can either do it now or after we pass this resolution, so which would you rather?
And I'd like to make one comment.
Okay. Well, if you want us to go ahead, it'll be fine.
Okay, Jamie, is it, can I ask you a question? So when you were talking just a minute ago, you said, and I've actually spent a fair amount of time dealing and thinking about these things. You said that this place would be a place where you would give the parents tools to, bring themselves up, possibly out of poverty. Children are not to blame for their parents, and it just breaks my heart to see what some of these kids go through and what they live in. It's so sad. What kind of tools are you going to try to equip the parents with to help them? Because some people just don't have that don't have the personality, the education, the wherewithal to pull themselves up.
Yeah, and sadly, you are right. We're not going to be successful with every family that we work with, but we are still going to try just as hard with each one. We are in the process of developing some different programs that we will be working when families will come into the shelter. They will have to, work their way through a series of these programs, especially if they will enter into the transitional housing component. Some of those will, of course, be learning budgeting. Just like you said, the children aren't the ones that are creating these situations, but most of the families that I work with, these parents were those children just a few years ago. They did not receive the tools and the knowledge that they needed to be successful and independent from their parents. And it's our hope that we can intervene and give them those tools now. So it will be between, a series of budgeting, also tenant training, working with these families on what are expectations when you're working with landlords? What are the expectations of you renting from them that will help you become more successful? What are some supports that we can put in place that are some community supports that can financially help out? Working with them on finding employment and maintaining employment. Working with them on even just some, basic housekeeping kinds of things, learning to cook at home. We have a variety of programs that we are working to develop, and it is our hope that through that, then as these families will exit our system, we will still have some level of case management with them to ensure their success ongoing, but that once we give them those tools, they will be able to take them and use them to their advantage.
Okay, good.
Mr. Chairman, one thing I'd like to mention. Many of you know that my wife and I, we have fostered and adopted children. And the first child that we adopted, birth mother and birth father were homeless. They were from Caldwell County, but were homeless. Low functioning. Issues with substance, issues with drugs, issues with, whatnot. And the biggest problem is that continues. Mm-hmm. We have a foster baby right now that he's number 2 for birth mom and, for birth mother and birth father. He is 6 months old, well, almost. And where I'm going with this is the cost of these folks. Birth mother has a baby that is 360 days older than the one we have. She is already pregnant again. She's pregnant again because pregnant mothers get WIC. And that means that they will get some food each month. And unless somebody steps in, that's going to continue and continue and continue. And there are going to be multiple children, already are, 2 and another one on the way, from 2 young adults that can't help themselves, but they do know how to use the system. And this is one example. And there are how many of those, of that situation. And these folks they're homeless. They have some family, but you know, honestly, family has sort of said, we've done all we can do. See ya. And so I applaud your efforts. You know, I remember when I was on Board of Education, they talked about all these homeless children in Alexander County and the schools, and I'm sitting there going, what do you mean they're homeless? They get on the bus every day. I mean, how are they homeless? You know, but like I said, those kids don't have, that's their normal. They don't know any different. But that normal is not healthy for those kids. And that cycle rolls and rolls and rolls. So anyway, thank you for what you're doing. And like you say, I know you can't help them all, but if you can make a difference in a few, you've made a big difference. That's it.
All right. Anyone else? I appreciate what y'all are doing, and it is probably a bigger problem than most people in the county realize. You know, just as us here, we see a whole lot of things are involved in, you know, actually what's going on. But it's a good thing. I appreciate, you know, y'all doing this, and I want to be successful. If, like as Mr. Lell said, if we can help a few, that's a few that are getting, you know, good help, and it can expand from that. Thank you. Okay, I had a motion and a second. I'd entertain a vote of approval. I'll raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Appreciate y'all coming out tonight. Okay, our next item of business is number 5, agreement for emergency sale of water. I recognize Rod Watts, General Manager of Energy United Water Corporation.
Thank you for having me. Presented before you is an agreement with Energy United Water Corporation and Alexander County to either buy or sell water in emergency. Energy United is proposing to pay for all the cost and construction and maintenance of all the water line that will be associated with this water line extension. Not a big extension, 3,300 feet on Millersville Road, but it's a good agreement, and it'll provide a backup for both Alexander County as well as Energy United.
All right. That sounds like a good thing, and like I say, you know, no more than that to connect the systems together, and it's a win for both ways that I can see. I'd present this as a motion to approve the emergency or the agreement for emergency sale of water by Energy United. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion or question? I think everyone's had a chance to look at the agreement. Looks real good to me. Okay, and entertain a vote of approval. Everyone in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Watts.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, next item of business, number 6, is Alexander County Resolution criteria for determining the appropriate use of design build for industrial shell building. Recognize EDC Director, Mr. David Eisenhower.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, as noted, this resolution is related to the construction of an industrial shell building for which you have already approved funding for, and I do appreciate your courage and your foresight in undertaking a project like this. I think it'll be good for the county in the long run. I'm proposing to you tonight that we use a design-build process for this project, and design-build is just what it sounds like. If we move forward with this, we would award this project to one company who would stay with us through the initial design phase and would also be responsible for construction. The state law allows you to do this, but just requires that you have written guidelines about how you will proceed with it. So I have spoken with Ms. Norma Houston at the UNC School of Governments. She is a lawyer, and she's written extensively about design build. So she suggested that we approach this with a resolution format. The resolution that you have in front of you, she has reviewed and has blessed it as meeting state statutes. It's also been reviewed by our local attorney. The resolution, in summary, if you look at it, all of those items in bold are taken verbatim from general statute related to design build. So following the items in bold is our explanation of how we will address those issues that the statute requires. But if you boil it all down, it just simply says that we have the ability to define what the project is, we have the ability to administer the project, we have the ability to make sure that what we get is what we want and that we get a quality product out of this. It assures the community that we will not discriminate against any firm who is interested in pursuing this design-build process. And it just states that we believe that this design-build process will be beneficial to the community in terms of time and/or finances related to it. So if you approve this resolution tonight, then tomorrow we will begin advertising the request for qualifications for firms that are interested. We have set a deadline of December 4th for those qualifications, statements of qualifications to be submitted to us. Hopefully, by early January, we'll be in a position to name the design-build firm. So at that point is when you start negotiating with that company on cost. So that's when you're going to find out what this is actually going to cost you to construct. So you spend some time negotiating with that first company that you choose in this RFQ process. If for some reason can't reach an agreement with that first company, we can move down the line to the second company, and we can continue, if we necessary, to the third company. But hopefully, we'll be able to reach a contract agreement with the first company. I mean, obviously, that's always the goal.
So, wait just a second. So, we have to choose the company before we get the price?
Yes,
All right.
that's the way,
Not gonna-
that's
not
the way it
gonna
works.
No.
One comment I would make is Bethlehem Baptist Church is being built, design, build.
Mhm.
And it is one of the biggest mistakes Bethlehem Baptist Church has ever made. I'm just, because
Well, I would argue that this is I understand that things can go bad in any process. We're building a shell building which has minimal design and architectural features to it. It's basically 4 walls and a ceiling with very minimal electrical, very minimal anything else, in all honesty. And I think this process is just more beneficial to us as opposed to your typical process of going out and hiring an architect to design something that we basically already know what that's going to be. So I think that gives us the opportunity to shorten the time frame, because you're gonna spend 6 weeks or more with just hiring an architect and dealing with them. Then they're gonna have to turn around and then eventually prepare your bid specs. That's another 2 months of time just doing that process. Also, since we are county government, we're going into this with a defined budget. And so we know what we have to spend, and we have to declare that up front, which seems a little backwards as well, but that's what state statutes require. But as I said, if we negotiate with that first company, we don't like what they're proposing, we move on to the next one. We're not locking ourselves into something blindly, I guess, is what I'm saying.
One of the advantages of hiring an architect, though, is that we do have a set of plans that we could carry on to the next project. That would be a set of plans that we would not have to, we would upfront, come to an agreement with the architect that we may use this set of plans 3 or 4 times, not just once.
There's nothing to preclude us from that in this either. I mean,
Right.
this company will have qualified architects on staff, so we're going to have design plans.
Oh, I understand that, yeah. I mean, I understand
Yeah.
that. But,
We'll make that, we can make that very clear in our negotiations.
Yeah,
that we're going to-
my experience with design build, is, I mean, and I understand completely. You pick, you know, you have, hey, this is our budget. You have you know, you choose your contractor. After doing so, they, you know, we choose, or whomever chooses the architects that would, you know, architects and engineers. The issue, the problem I have with it, and I understand time is money, believe me. I mean, I deal with that every single day. The problem I have with it is there's no guarantee that you're getting a true market price. And when I say that, you know, we may say, okay, but the budget is, you know, just using crazy round numbers, $100,000. And we interview the first contractor, and as long as they're under $100,000, everything's cool. But we might have put it out in the bids, and it gotten built for $82,000, or, you know, $82,000 instead of $100,000. But we won't. But with design build, you don't know that, because you don't put the project out to bid. And you know, and from my personal experience, and I was not part of the decision to do design build, you know, and I am a general contractor. You know, and I know I do most of the residential, but I mean, Ryan, and Ryan's a contractor too, would you not love for somebody to hire you and just say, hey,
Whatever it is.
this, you know, I mean, this is our budget.
Yeah.
We've hired you to build us what you say you can build us in this budget. And yes, you've got specs on what you want the house to be, but, you know, I've seen situations, and one thing about it is, I mean, the description of the work, the job has to be, and when I say defined to the last grain of sand, you know, oops, nobody remembered to put gutter downspout piping in the, you know, in the scope of work. So right now, the gutter water is just gonna run out on the ground, and it's gonna cause erosion, and it's gonna ruin everything. Oh, wait, well, hey, it's just $18,000 more to put that in. You know, and I'm saying, oh, wait, we hit some bad, you know, we were excavating and we hit some bad dirt. Guess what? You know, oh, wait, you know, I mean, it's just, I mean, if it's just, I mean, I guess it can work. I mean, but I have not, I haven't seen it work well.
Well, let me say one thing first, and David and I actually talked about this the other day. So we had a conversation about design build, and I guess I didn't ask the right questions. So I had a different take on. I mean, we've never done a design build through county government.
You have not.
Right. So in residential, design build is a different animal than this here.
Yeah.
So my experience with it is not, you know, I don't have a lot of experience with design build. That being said, doesn't mean that I, you know, couldn't go that way, but I don't have all my questions answered. I'm unsure about several things. And if I'm unsure, I can't vote for it.
Okay.
What would be the criteria for picking contractor?
Well, it's very similar to what you would do when you're picking an architect. There's a scoring system. You basically look at the qualifications. There will be a team put together that will consist of myself. I was the assuming county manager, one member of the commission would be on this review team, and anybody else that this board wants on that review team. But it's very subjective things. You look at the professional qualifications of the firm, you look at their staff experience with similar projects, you look at their ability of the staff to meet that schedule or beat your schedule, you look at their past performance record, you can ask for statements of why this team should be selected. It's very generalistic type of things like that. And you score each of these just like you would do if you're hiring an architect. If we go the route of architect, this is gonna be a very similar scoring system to hire an architect. So once we do that, we're gonna rank each of the firms, whatever the firm is that comes out on top, then we start negotiating with them on the cost of design and construction. And that's where you have, I can assure you, the money that you have appropriated, it's going to be close as to whether that's going to even build this facility. So I don't think we're going to, honestly don't think we're going to gain a whole lot, if anything. I don't think we're going to gain anything by bidding it out in a more traditional manner. I think it's going to wind up costing about the same, but it's going to take us longer, is my argument. And because you are government, you have to approach this differently than the private sector. You have already established what your budget is. So that number is out there. We've already told the world what we have budgeted for this project, which feels backwards, but that's how you have to do it.
Anybody that's gonna be bidding on this project is gonna.
They
look and see
already
much
know what you've got.
budgeted
You
for
are
it
going
anyway.
to spend that amount of money.
But my thing is.
But there's no rule that we have to spend every dime that was budgeted.
You don't have to spend it in either process,
Right,
You
right.
don't have to do it.
Right.
Instead of getting laminate
Yeah.
countertops, we might get granite countertops, you know what I mean? I mean, there might be a.
My other argument is we have at least two, and I know we have three, but we have two companies that have done this very thing in essence in the industrial park.
My thing is I would like before we decide to hire anybody, you know, we're gonna be talking to these different boards, and I understand it's 4 walls and a roof, I know that, but a lot can be different about those 4 walls and a roof.
There can
I'd
be
like to
some
have
variations.
some kind of concept of what we're looking for before we choose who's gonna design it.
And I have that. I mean, basically, we will construct the same shell building that Borealis is in now. The only difference, and I have the complete specs for that building, and that's the basis for this. I think we can improve on that building slightly.
Well, it's not the most attractive one I've ever seen, so maybe we can do something a little along that line on the front. I don't have a problem with it, like I said, but I've got unanswered questions here, and I want to make sure they're answered properly
I
before.
understand that, yeah.
And David, I don't mean to be, but my experience with design build have not been positive. And the only thing I have to go on is my, you know what I mean? I mean,
Sure.
that's the only thing I have to go on when I see, and, you know, and that's nothing against, you know, and that's nothing against, it's definitely nothing against, you know, you or the EDC or anything like that.
No, and I'm not taking it
You know,
that way.
I just know. I just know it's.
So tell me the process again about, you're proposing that we send out for requests for qualifications,
Correct.
and then after that, what?
Well, if you were to approve this tonight, we'll start advertising for the request for qualifications that will come back to the county. Those would be due, well, let me go through the whole thing. So we'd start advertising tomorrow. November 14th, I had planned to conduct a non-mandatory pre-submittal conference with anybody that's interested in submitting for this. We'd talk about what the site is, where the site is, I would review with them the general specifications, 50,000 square foot building, expandable, concrete, tilt-up walls as an option, metal building as an option, 28-foot ceilings, minimal electrical, those kind of things for the building itself. We'd give a period of time for them to submit written questions. We would accept the qualification statements on the December 4th. Our review team would start reviewing those. And then by January the 4th, we would notify one of the design build firms, and then we would enter into contract negotiations with them, and hopefully by the end of January, we could award a contract. You know, my view of this was, again, that it is, for a building, it's fairly simple. And I just felt design build would be the best avenue for us to get this building on the ground as soon as possible. Because even at the best, it's still gonna take us the better part of a year, probably, this time next year. And again, gentlemen, I will gladly pursue any process that you want to undertake. Again, it was just my opinion that this was the fastest route to get us to a shell building that give us the earliest option to recruit a new company and create jobs in Alexander County.
If I can say something,
Okay.
there's a similar process we're actually going through right now with the sewer project for Stony Point Elementary School. When we receive the grant and we know how much the project is going to cost. So in this new compliance era that we're in, we took proposals, not bids, just qualifications from different firms to give us information about their qualifications, look at their work history, look at some of their jobs that they had done that were similar, different things. And we had 7 or 8, we had a number of proposals, reviewed them, and we scored them based on what we thought were the best. And at our last meeting, or a meeting a couple months ago, you allowed me to negotiate with the low bidder, who's Weston Associates. They ended up being the firm that we now have an agreement with. And so I think it's the same, you sort of have a number already selected. It's just sort of backwards of the way we normally do things, as far as we're doing the price and starting with that in mind. And like David says, if you think it's better for us to table this until you get all your questions answered, maybe that's what we need to do. But just realize that it's just some of the time of the process, that's all.
Well, I guess another big question I have, and I hate, I don't want to table it, because these guys are not going to be here, and
Right,
they've been
I
through
know.
this
I
whole
know.
process.
Well, and I'm old school, so I like bids. I'm
Right.
sorry, I just do. Again, I hear you, David. What I'd worry with, if we pick somebody with the qualifications, we get all the way down, then they give us their cost, and it's like, ugh. Then you gotta start that over, I guess, almost again with the qualification. Guys, I just think I like people competing against each other for our business. I really do. I think that's and we start talking about time into things a little bit. One thing that may work in our favor, contractors are very busy right now, but interest rates are rising. So if they rise again in a time or two, maybe it slows down a little bit and they need work more. And so that's where maybe that the timing, again, I'm from the other perspective, guys. I just like bids, to be totally honest with you. And I appreciate what you're trying to do here, but I don't know that I get there with it, respectfully.
Okay, well, I think I'm kind of coming up with consensus that we need to table it. We can discuss it, I guess, amongst ourselves, and
Maybe that'll give opportunity to give questions to us, so David could research those questions to make sure that you get the answers.
Yeah.
So you can consider everything. I mean, that's
okay.
the good news. I mean, as far as that part of it goes, bad news is you won't have two
Well,
members here that are.
The other option is if you want to go back to the traditional method of, advertising for architect, I can very easily, tweak what I have here, and we can just go forward with that process. That's fine. That will at least save you from having to go another month and talk about this. If you're not comfortable doing the design build, let's just don't do it. And we'll
And
go
maybe
ahead-
have some
we'll go
new
the
crazy
traditional route.
wild people sitting up here.
Oh, yeah.
Or some level-headed people, unlike some of us that have been sitting here.
I could sign up for the architect piece.
Let's do
So
that.
let's
We're gonna-
just
We're gonna go that route.
tweak it to bids, change it to a bid instead of
Yeah,
a,
we'll advertise for architect, and then we'll have them design, and we'll bid the project like a traditional manner.
Do we need to
I
vote?
guess we need to vote. How am I gonna, so where it says design build, we'll just do it as a bid?
Well, just,
Let's just,
We're just
well,
gonna-
you wouldn't even, I wouldn't say anything wrong with that.
You're just gonna scrap the resolution.
Okay.
All right, let me do it.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move to, well, we didn't call a vote on that, so it doesn't matter. Mr. Chairman, I move to give the county manager and the EDC director, David Eisenhower, to move forward with finding a architect to design the shell building. I guess that's all we need.
Okay. Have a motion and a second. We've kinda discussed that to death already. I'd entertain a vote of approval to proceed with that motion. All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, David.
That's okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sorry about
We'll
that.
move forward.
Thanks. Okay, moving on to item number 7, Alexander County Health Department Overdose Campaign PowerPoint. I recognize Ms. Leanne Westnant, our Health Department Director. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. I wanted to bring to you, we're kind of talking about some challenging topics tonight. Alarming, but I wanted to bring some of the latest statistics to you on our addiction and substance abuse and overdose data. Some new data came out, and as you'll see, it's not good news, but I do think we need to let you be aware of it, and I know you are, and let our community know. The data you see on the screen now is unintentional medication and drug deaths for Alexander County. This is from 2012 to 2016. You'll see our rate at 18.3% compared to the state at 12.2%. Our region data is very similar to the state. And the next slide is even scarier, I think, for us, because we do prenatal care at the health department, and we're seeing the outcomes from a lot of substance abuse in our pregnant women. Commissioner Leo, you mentioned some of that earlier, and we are certainly seeing that, and it's continuing to, there's not an improvement. Even though we're working hard, we've got a committee working on lots of things, and we've made some good progress as far as putting some, I know you've heard about our behavioral health program we're trying to integrate with our medical program at the health department, which will probably be another 6 months getting it up and running, or maybe a little more than that. But to help this issue particularly, because we're seeing our hospitalizations with our newborns, 21.4% compared to 9% at the state. And as you mentioned earlier, Commissioner Leo, that we're going to see this cycle. You know, this is not just this baby's in the hospital for an extended period and it's costing and this child's suffering, but then we're going to see that for this child, the rest of this child's life. We see it when they enter school. The school system is already taxed, and so we've got to get a handle on this. Very alarming data. We're at the not the very top, but the second tier category. So we definitely need to intervene. We've seen over 80% of our maternal health patients at the health department for the last several years have one or multiple issues: mental health, substance abuse, or domestic violence. And all three of those kind of go together. So many had 2 or 3, and 80%. That's scary. We're talking about 100 pregnancies in the time frame that I hand counted those numbers. Alarming. So hopefully, our grant will help us get them more help. And then this next graph is just an estimate of the cost. Just wanted to see what each of those deaths, these are the drug fatalities for 1 year, 2016 for Alexander County, cost each of us. That bottom number is a per capita cost for each resident, $266.26. I'm wanting us to be aware and our community work together so we could take these funds and use for different things, more positive areas. You're talking about almost $10 million worth of combined cost, loss of work, healthcare costs. And I'm sure that's a low number. That doesn't take into consideration the potential for that child. The next is our outpatient opioid pill dispensing per county. You can see again, you know, all these graphs, it's not good to be at the top of the list. 98.4% compared to 66.5. I think you'll see in 2017.
I think you're reading that wrong. It's not 98.4%. It's 98 pills per person,
Yes, thank you.
man, woman, child that lives in Alexander County.
And how many of us don't take those so that the
Yeah.
next person has double or triple? I think you will actually
I've never
see
took a
this
one.
number come down because we have been working with our medical community for a lot of years. Of course, you know, statistics stay behind, so this is 2016, but you're exactly right. Thank you for clarifying that. And
I didn't mean to interrupt,
No,
but
no,
this has
no.
been a big topic with us, and
you
So,
were,
I knew what the number was.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're aware, and thank you for that correction. And I do hope we'll see, and I'll bring that next data to you soon. You know, statistics are always several years behind. So hopefully when the next one, we'll see that decline some. I know our medical community is making great strides to reduce some of that prescribing. And not to say we don't want it prescribed when it's needed, but maybe not in the quantities, so that there's, you know, 98 pills for every individual, and you're talking about, you know, children even that don't need it, so.
My family, my wife, myself, and my 2 children have not taken a single opioid all this year, last year. I might have had 3 when I had knee surgery. So, you know, those are hundreds of pills that somebody else is taking.
Exactly.
These opioid, the pharmaceutical companies have to track where these pills are going, what state and what county, and that's why we're entering the lawsuit right now to sue them, so.
Yes. And you bring up a good point, because like even for surgery, you know, I think in the past, those pharmaceutical companies have really presented it as not as harmful and addictive. And so physicians, other prescribers would prescribe maybe for after surgery, instead of 3 to 5 days worth, you'd get, you know, 30 or 90. So now lowering those numbers to even to where, even if there's more needed, they can come back in for a recheck and evaluate that need. Because we know after that 7-day period, the chances of addiction really increased dramatically. So I think we're being more thoughtful about that prescribing practice. And even though we don't have a hospital in our community, lots of work have went into the emergency rooms in that prescribing and tracking, because we know a lot of people will go to multiple providers, doctor shopping, hospital shopping, going to 2 or 3 with different problems. So trying to always check on those patients and make sure, you know, what have they had prescribed before. So hopefully we've done a lot of work with that. The state's done a lot of work, and there will be, I think we'll see that data improve. Some of the next slide, additional information, was just a couple of things I wanted to make sure you were aware. The Addiction Recovery Medical Services has been in our community about 1.5 years, and the latest numbers estimated was that they're seeing 200 patients just in Alexander County, because, you know, they have an office in Iredell County as well. But 200 unduplicated clients, actually, it's more than that. That was just the average, and that's Dr. Kearney's program. That's a lot of people getting care, which we want them in treatment. The other is our rate of substance abuse and mental health-related visits for the emergency department. Again, higher than the state average. And of course, that's lots of cost all the way around. And then working on that opioid suit is where some of this data, Larissa Erkman and I have been working with different departments trying to come up with some cost. Now, don't take this as a hard number. This was just some ideas. The data that we could get from 2008 for the last 10 years. Drug screen costs. Those drug screen costs, over $300,000, does not include, that's just true cost. As far as the health department, that doesn't include salaries. So all these are low numbers. So keep that in mind. That this is just direct cost. This is what we're paying out for the supplies and the testing only, not your employee costs. And also foster care children costs. Again, not your employee costs, not lots of other indirect. This is just direct cost. You know, $434,000. 911 overdose calls, again, it's hard to get really accurate data because those calls for the last 10 years, we counted only, and that's almost 2,000 calls, but they had to say things that were overdose related. So that's low again because there's a stigma with overdose, there's fear of, you know, lawsuits, police issues. You know, they may have said, you know, I found them not breathing. I think they may have had a heart attack. None of that would be here. So that, again, that's a low number, but still striking. I wanted you to see the data that we could get. So, you know, we're wanting to change these numbers, improve things. Again, Narcan, we do know these are actual numbers. You see in 2016 was less than 60 Narcan doses administered by EMS, and in 2017 was 109. So, again, I don't have to.
Can you explain what Narcan is?
I can, thank you.
Magic shot.
I forget, that medical jargon just comes right off. Narcan is that rescue drug that is used to reverse an overdose. It can have a couple of other uses too. It's been around a long time. We used it to resuscitate infants. But with EMS, most of those are overdose related. It may have been they weren't sure if it was an overdose, so there could have been probably very few, but the potential was there that it was given when they didn't know, because it's not going to hurt you if you administer it and it's not an overdose, it's something else. But if that person was unresponsive, not breathing, and there was an indicator that it could have been an overdose, Narcan would have been administered. And now we're seeing that a lot of times it's taking more than one dose of Narcan because the drugs and medications are so strong that people are taking that it's taking more than one dose administered. So very scary. But that's the medication. And we actually, the pharmacy, people that are at risk for overdose can have these in their home. It's if anybody feels like there's a need with a family member, loved one, neighbor, they can contact the health department. We'll be happy to put them in touch with where they can secure Narcan if they want to administer themselves. For EMS, it's more of an injectable, but for the public, there's actually, you can put it, spray it into the nose, so you don't have to inject if someone's fearful of needles. But that's some of the data I wanted you to see. There's a committee that we've been working diligently. You may have remembered the Commissioner's Task Force began years and years ago. We've kind of revitalized that committee in the last 4 or 5 months, and we're working really hard. I wanted you to be aware of what's going on in the community and to let the community know it's going to take all of us. It's not going to be reversed quickly. It's not going to be a sudden change, and our data's going to get better immediately. We're going to have to educate the community And it's gonna take all of us. There's lots of intervention happening, but this epidemic is not gonna be turned around quickly, so. And I appreciate the opportunity to show you our latest data and let you know we're working tonight as part of that campaign to make sure the public knows and involve everyone. We're also doing a take-back campaigns. People's Pharmacy is actually working on having a take-back box within their pharmacy. So there's lots of work out there being done. We continue to work with the medical community. We're continuing to try to find more resources. We're all the time working on grants. We just have written one that we weren't funded because there was 10 times more applicants than funding, which lets you know this is not just an Alexander County issue. It's a national epidemic, so it is certainly in all of North Carolina as well as across the country, so.
Right.
But I appreciate your time and
Leanne, one question.
certainly.
I mean, you know, pain pills often lead to other opiates, AKA heroin.
Yes.
And then I read an article a couple weeks ago about fentanyl and how the number of fentanyl deaths in the United States has just skyrocketed.
Yes.
Because, and the article was about fentanyl being manufactured in labs in China. And, you know, supposedly people can go on, you know, these dark crypto websites and order it. And what floored me was it said a sweet and low packet worth of fentanyl, you know, that has not been diluted, the powder, was enough to overdose and kill 500 people.
Yes.
A sweet and low packet. And see, and I mean, I'm just kind of thinking to myself, I mean, I'm all about, I hope the medical community and everybody else that we can cut back to the opioid pain medication that are dispensed. But I'm afraid we're already on to step 2, and, you know, because if they can't get the pain pills anymore at the ER, saying, you know, I mean, I know of people, I say of people, I've heard of people, you know, I mean, doing significant harm to themselves to go to the ER to get pain pills. And, you know, and I mean, I don't know if you, I guess I'm kind of saying, I mean, this is maybe more an EMS and law enforcement, but it also be a health department question. But I mean, are we seeing much heroin? Are we seeing much?
And you'll notice
I mean,
most
I
of
don't
the
know
time,
what else there is.
it's scary what all's out there. We're seeing all that. We're seeing fentanyl. The fear is too for our county employees and our emergency response team, because even fentanyl and some of those chemicals on a surface can be absorbed through the skin.
Right, I mean, if you touch,
So,
I mean,
if you touch
that
it,
article
like
said if
EMS
you-
arrives on scene and
if
is
you
helping
touch-
that
yeah,
person.
You can touch it, and if you touch enough, I mean, you can die.
Yes, so
I mean, I
it's,
assume you feel really good right before you do, but I don't know. I'm just kidding.
it can be really quickly, they go into respiratory arrest. I mean,
Right.
it's very,
I mean, and it's
Department of
just
Social
crazy to
Services
me that
are in
that's-
these homes. I mean, it's very scary. And we are seeing all of that in our community. And most of the time when I talk about that, we did talk a lot about opioids because that was the latest statistics. But when I talk about it, it's substance abuse. We aren't just seeing our pregnant women use one substance. When we do those drug screens, it lights up like a Christmas tree. I mean,
They're on every
it's
kind of drug
marijuana,
imaginable. It's anything they can get.
yes, that, sometimes it starts with opioids from a surgery, and it's not just low income, it has no barriers. It could be in anybody's family. And probably many of our families, there is somebody that has been affected by substance use. mental health, domestic violence. And they kind of, overlap a lot. But those substances, sometimes it can be surgery, but then that's not enough, and it leads to other addictions. So that's why it's so important to get help. Addiction is a disease, and it's not, you just can't wave a magic wand and cure that. So it's a lifetime of struggling and needing support. So that's why I titled it, It's Time to Take Back Our Community, because it's going to take our entire community and all of us, our churches, our civic groups, our housing, our school system, and we are working together. That's the great thing about Alexander County. We are close-knit, and we're small, and we have to work together, but I think for a lot of people, we don't want to recognize how serious it is. And we've got to. We've got to step up and really attack the issue, because the epidemic's not improving, it's worsening. We've moved from meth to heroin to fentanyl. And I'm afraid to say what's next, because we're seeing all of that.
What I don't understand, and this burns me up, and Josh, I'm sure it makes you mad, foster children that you have. How do these women who are pregnant take these drugs? You wouldn't give a newborn baby heroin or fentanyl or cocaine or meth or anything else, but you are giving it to them when you're pregnant and you're taking these drugs. Do they not care, or are they so addicted they just, what's going on there?
It's the addiction is driving it. They do care, and we don't want them not to seek care. So, we want to be a safe place, and we want to help them. Many times, we refer many to Dr. Kearney's program, and there's a lot of controversy. You go from one drug to a different drug, but if we can at least get them to a safer drug for this baby, because they can't just stop cold turkey, or the baby's probably going to die. So, we've seen alcoholics, we've seen all kinds of issues, and we want to get them in treatment. We want to lower that and start where they're at and make improvements. But it is not easy.
Right, and that's, I would love to have them arrested and thrown in jail, but you can't do that. And if you go after them for the drug use, they will not get the prenatal care.
Exactly.
And the drug use will be that much worse. But it
Yes.
does make me very angry that they do this
So we have,
to these babies.
we have a special needs child that we adopted through foster care that was born. Mom, and this is crazy, it wasn't fentanyl and all that stuff, it was just marijuana and alcohol.
They can do major damage.
And she.
Fetal
yeah.
alcohol syndrome is severe, and people don't
And that-
realize.
And the last statistics that I saw pertaining to fetal alcohol spectrum disorder is that they expect 1 in 10 children have some level of fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. And if you folks don't know what that is, folks don't know what it is and what it does and what it causes and what it damages, Google would be a great place to look.
Yes, and a lifetime of issues. It's
They
not,
can get better.
certainly not fair to that child to cause limitations.
Well, and, we can see the dollar amount, but look at the lives. It's a life that may be lost, forever. We can't really put a price on that.
And not only
But-
that, but those children,
Yeah. And
those
then the
children that didn't make those decisions cost our society, a lot of them cost our society, major money.
Yes.
Because they don't all get adopted.
Well, and they don't have a say-so in what mom or dad is doing. But, just like what you're doing tonight. I mean, we've all been aware of these numbers, and I try to, explain to people that I see, but, this is very good, puts it in black and white, where you can see it. And it not only the people that says, oh, it doesn't involve me, it does involve you, because there's a dollar amount that's attached to it. And, just like you mentioned, I think it's gonna take everybody, churches especially, that can work within their, congregation and the family unit. It's gonna take all of us working together to turn this thing around, but, that's a list that we don't wanna be on the top of, so, and I appreciate your information, appreciate what y'all do at the Health Department. What you see, I'm sure, is just unbelievable, for the average person.
It is very disheartening at times, but then you will see that one that does make a difference, that one that does stop, comes in at a level and maybe, is on 5 different drugs, and we get them in treatment and they get to one safer maintenance, and then that decreases and to where that infant is probably gonna still be in the hospital a longer period, but instead of, coming here weighing a pound or 2, is at least full birth weight and maybe only stays a week or 2 in the hospital and still has a lot of capacity. So, we do see a lot of moms that care, but that addiction is so strong, I've done a lot of studying and a lot of educating myself on addiction and what that does to the brain and those I can't even fathom that. So, we want to be there and provide them the help and the support that we can and get that baby here as healthy as humanly possible. So, and I want to see that we can reduce those costs so that we can put that money toward other great advantage things that will bring Alexander County healthier and into the future. So, and we're going to keep striving. Hopefully I can come back with better news, but I appreciate your time, and we will continue to work. And it's not myself, it's the community. We have a huge committee. Some of the challenges are, trying to find some of the funds to fund that. We'll continue to raise money with grants, and we'll continue to apply. Even if you don't get but 1 out of 10, that's 1 out of 10, so.
Right.
And we want people to come into prenatal care, so we can at least have some kind of impact.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for adopting. I have 2 adopted children myself. It's a great thing.
My wife's crazy, and I can't.
You might have
and
4
I can't
more,
say
right?
no. Yeah, that's what I tell people, is my wife's crazy, and I just can't say no to her.
Yeah, well, my house is
Well,
full.
really, I'm
done.
scared
I
of her.
might foster later when I retire, but whew, my 2 are plenty.
Yeah. Thank you, Lee,
Thank you,
and
gentlemen.
appreciate your work and your department too. Make sure they know we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next item, number 8, proclamation declaring December 1st through December 31st, 2018 as Christmas in Bethlehem, and I'd recognize Vice Chairman Josh Lell to read that proclamation for us.
Proclamation declaring December 1st through December 31st, 2018 as Christmas in Bethlehem. Whereas the Bethlehem Community Development Association has been a longtime supporter of improvements and quality of life issues in the Bethlehem area, and whereas Alexander County government wishes to assist the Bethlehem Community Development Association in promoting events that increase community spirit and offer opportunities for fellowship during the Christmas season. And whereas the Bethlehem Star Lighting has been a fixture of the Christmas season for 40 years, annually drawing thousands of citizens to the Bethlehem area. And whereas the annual Bethlehem Star Lighting will take place on December 1st, 2018. And whereas a live nativity drive-through will occur December 7th through 9th, 2018. And whereas these Christmas events promote values and morals which are the binding fiber of the community, and these events are strongly supported by the Bethlehem Community Development Association, area churches, businesses, and citizens. Now therefore be it resolved that the Alexander County Board of Commissioners does hereby declare December 1st through December 31st, 2018, as Christmas in Bethlehem, adopted this 5th day of November 2018, signed by Ronnie Reese, Chairman, and Jamie Starnes, Clerk to the Board,
Okay, I would
to be signed.
entertain a motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Okay, all in favor of the proclamation, raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, gentlemen.
I think next year we should do a proclamation naming it Josh Lell Day in Bethlehem.
All right. We'll have to look into that.
What?
Okay, moving on, to item number 9. Recognize County Manager Rick French for approval of 2019 Alexander County Commissioners meeting schedule.
In your packet, you have the proposed 2019 meeting schedule for the county commissioners, following the same guide that we used this past year. And we recommend that you approve the 2019 meeting schedule.
Looks good to me.
Yeah,
Just saying.
Yeah,
I think
could
that's
be
really good.
Ryan, the only one
I
that's.
make a motion to approve the 2019 County Commission meeting schedule.
Is there, okay.
I don't know if we really need to do that, though.
Motion.
You can.
Oh, yeah, we need to.
Second.
Oh, second
Second.
that, because I don't have any
Right.
conflicts with this, I
Me
don't
neither.
think.
Okay, got a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And item number 10, also along the same line, approval of 2019 Alexander County holiday schedule. Recognize Rick French, County Manager.
Again, the holiday schedule, we follow the state schedule, same as we have just about every year, with the same amount of holidays. Be glad to answer any questions.
I'd like to go on record to say that holidays are good.
That's right.
And banks take a lot of them.
Yes, we do.
We just need a,
All right.
Mr. Chairman, we need a motion to approve the.
So moved.
Okay, have a motion.
Motion from Milton, second.
Have a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you. Carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, and moving on to item number 11, board appointments and reappointments, Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. Recognize Rick French, County Manager, once again.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. Juvenile Crime Prevention Council appoint Kristen Eichard and Douglas Bowman for 2-year terms.
Okay, everything's, one's seen the information in their packet, and I think we know those. I'll make a motion that we approve it. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, once again, recognize Mr. Rick French for our budget ordinances amendments number 16 through 20.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Budget amendment number 16 is to increase the information technology budget to use PEG channel funds received in prior years from the state video programming distribution. Number 17 is the budget for refund to North Carolina Department of Juvenile Justice for 2017-18 funds that service providers were unable to spend due to the classification of the juvenile cases. Service providers are reimbursing the county for the unspent funds. And number 18 is to budget for true-up adjustments for fiscal year 2018 tax revenues compared to 2018 disbursements to fire districts. And could we consider those three first? Does anybody have any questions about those 3 budget amendments?
No.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve budget ordinance amendments number 16, 17, and 18 as presented.
Second.
Okay, have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions on those? Okay, being none, I'd entertain a vote to approve those amendments as stated. Raise your right hand. Okay, motion carries unanimously. Reference to amendments 19 and 20, we will reconvene and take action on those and continue this meeting until November the 6th at 9:15 a.m., and we will have a conference call for those amendments.
You need a motion.
Okay, do I need a motion to table those till tomorrow?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we table amendments 19 and 20 until 9:15 a.m. Tomorrow morning.
All right, have a motion, have a second.
Second.
Okay, have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion to table those, raise your right hand. Okay, motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Moving on to item number 13 is our county manager's report, and I recognize Rick French, county manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of things to mention. One, some sad news, and we'd given you this information earlier, but several years ago, Keith Moon served as our interim DSS director. He was a great guy, and he filled in after Cindy Holman left and filled in before Trish, and he passed away on October the 18th. And if you knew him, he was a great person. He was a very outstanding DSS director, had served in several different counties, and just a devoted family person. Just he was 72 years old, and he certainly will be missed. I just wanted to bring that out tonight.
Thank you.
As mentioned earlier, we worked out an agreement with Weston Associates for the Stony Point Elementary Sewer Project. We also have included some updates in the water and sewer projects, have information from Shabaldine Engineering and McGill Engineering in your packets, and also some other information for your review. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple real short items for closed session.
Okay, thank you, Mr. French.
Thank you.
This time, I would entertain the motion to adopt our consent agenda. I'm sure everyone's had opportunity to look at it. It's been in the packet.
So moved.
May I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion or questions? Okay, being none. All in favor, raise your right hand for approval. Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. At this time, I'll entertain a motion that we go into closed session to discuss personnel and contractual reference to NCGS 143-318-11. And we will reconvene only for the purpose to continue the meeting till our conference call for tomorrow. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Raise your right hand. Thank you. We're in closed session.